Hi everyone, I'm back with another episode of PMP Exam Prep Power Hour, and I'm here to talk about today requirement related things to start with and any questions related to your PMP exam preparation. I should be streaming on YouTube and LinkedIn. I see that it is not yet working in both the platform, but I just spent 2 minutes to check if it is working well on at least one of the platform, because today my mic was giving me a little problem. So I want to make sure that things are working. So here, okay, so I see the LinkedIn is working and at least the YouTube is working. So if you have participated from LinkedIn, you can put your queries and comment in the same area where you are watching this feed. And if you are watching us on YouTube, again, the point remains the same. You can put your comments in the chat area of that particular YouTube feed. As usual, I start with a topic which we pick up based on your previous feedback. I talk about requirement today, talking about various techniques which as a project manager or a business analyst can be applied to understand and explore requirements. So I briefly talk about them. In the PMP exam, you do get questions, most likely 2 or 3, where you need to choose the appropriate requirement tool. Yeah. So majorly, you may not be efficient in practicing this tool as far as PMP exam is concerned, but you should have an awareness as a project manager which tool is appropriate in which environment. So if that much you understand, you are good. You probably don't end up documenting requirements as a project manager, but understanding the appropriate tool is something needed. So that's something we are going to explore in our today's session. So I'm your host, Saket Bansal, back again with the project management related topic for you. Feel free to put your questions. If you have a question to start with, I am happy to take that as well. Else we will just get started with the topic and we'll take the question once we have finished this particular topic. So I see that things are working at least on YouTube, and probably they are also working good in the LinkedIn. So I start with the topic which I have in mind, and then probably we'll discuss your questions. One of the things before I start, some of you might have been observing that we started putting various project documents like I shared communication management plan, risk management plan, project charter, team charter. It is like a sample filled with some information, so you get a feel of it. I also end up sharing risk register sometime back. And since the LinkedIn is not allowing us to share the Word document or Excel document directly, even if we upload Word, it becomes a PDF file before you download. So I was asking that you can drop me a message and then I can share the file with you. But this problem is solved now. You don't have to do that. So we put all this information on our website. So one can visit eisenbridge.com/downloads and they can get this information from there. So that's information to start with for your downloadable work artifacts, which can be used for improving your project management understanding. Okay, with this, I start with requirement. Now, in your PMP processes, PMBOK processes, or PMI process guide perspective, you do see that things starts with collect requirement as a process. In a modern project management, we don't believe that we can go and collect the requirement. We believe we need to explore the requirement. Now, it is not about the words. Words are okay. We can probably use whatever it means. But we should go with a mindset as a project manager. The requirements are not something which are ready-made available. They are just not lying. I need to scratch and I need to find it out, dig deep. Then only I can really identify what people really want from my project. So we usually focus on exploration of requirement. And when we are doing exploration, there is a probability of missing something also. So better I also put a validation process in my in that particular requirement exploration technique. So as a project manager, I don't believe that I can just ask my stakeholder and they can give me a requirement. It is not going to work. I need to go with an attitude that I probably will discuss with them. I will go with open-ended questions. I will apply various requirement gathering technique, and we will take a cross verification of it. And frequently we will run our validation processes so that we really ensure that we are getting the requirement in the right context. There is a possibility some requirement will emerge, maybe because of the mistake in requirement gathering or collecting or exploring activities, or maybe they are new because they are coming at a later stage. So I should be respectful for these late discovery as well, and I need to treat them as per the appropriate agreed process which we have in our project. So we need to put extra effort to discover the requirement. That's the first point to start with before even I talk about requirement. Yes, how do I do requirement? It will be guided by my understanding in my organization, and that understanding I can put as a approach in a requirement management plan if I want to do it, or we have an informal understanding which talks about which tools are good and how we need to work on these requirements. Now, some tools which are frequently seen in your project management content, and as we discussed that there is a little bit overlap between project manager and business analyst role at some extent. So we are discussing those tools which are frequently seen, and you need to focus on understanding the difference between them. So first, start with interview. You all know that it is always a good idea to interview people. You can go to someone and ask, what do you need? Now, it looks very obvious. It looks quite attractive tool, but there are some risks associated with, and there are some advantages associated with it. And that is the something which is your PMP topic. So first is you need to prepare for interview. You need to take an appointment. You may go with the structured questions where you prepare those questions in advance and you discuss those questions in the interview. You may design some of the open-ended questions. Some questions could be close-ended question. Close-ended question means they need to choose out of option, yes, no kind of thing. So there are given option and you need to choose one out of it. Open-ended is more like you ask a question and the person can explain what they really expect from that particular area of your product. So you prepare, you ensure that you have an appointment, and then you take an interview. You record all the information which get discussed in the interview. You probably end up sharing the summary of that interview with that particular stakeholder, and this is how you conduct an interview. Now, what is a good part of it as a requirement gathering technique? It's a good because people can share specific requirements. When you are talking to the person, it is not influenced by other person's requirement. Yeah, you can get a focused thing. The difficulty is it could be a slow process. If you have many stakeholders, you're doing interview one-on-one, you know, it takes time. And second, it may happen that someone is talking about A aspect and some other person start talking about B aspect, and there is a contradiction between these two aspects. And now you need to take another round of conversation to bring the alignment. So reaching to an alignment may take time because you are talking to people one by one. So as a project manager PMP exam, I may reserve this type of requirement exploration for high power stakeholders, people who may not have time to come and explain things very in a bigger group, or may not be able to write a document for me. For those individuals, I may take a pain to do an interview, and then I need to also ensure that their explanation remain consistent, or if it is diverting from some of the other stakeholder, I go back and verify it. So this is how you choose the context in your PMP exam to identify where you can use interview. Yeah. So start with that. Now, in general, as a business analyst, as a project manager, you keep hearing term that we do brainstorming. Yeah. So I think it's a nice word which talks about a discussion. So in a simple word, brainstorming is more like the idea generation activity. We want to generate various aspects. We want to bring creativity in the conversation so that we can identify what might be needed in our product or project. So it's a good technique. Yeah, you need to do little structured brainstorming. So you identify the meeting structure, meeting agenda, you identify the right participants, very important for a brainstorming purpose. And then you generate idea. You may have some mechanism of voting those generated ideas also, which can help you in identifying the requirements. The disadvantage could be that you may not be able to do it with a bigger population. So you still need to work with a smaller population in these discussions. And sometimes the discussions may go long. Yeah, that's another disadvantage. Another is people may get influenced. Few people are maybe dominating the whole conversation, and some of the stakeholder who may have a better idea, who may have a real requirement, may remain silent in that particular brainstorming session. So that could be a little disadvantage which you need to be aware of when you are choosing the option in your PMP exam. Now, brainstorming disadvantages at some extent can be improved with the help of facilitated workshop. So at a very high level, both of them may look similar. But the idea of facilitated workshop is it is more engaged, where people are doing something. They might be making some artifacts. So say you may tell them that make a presentation about our future product. So you may have a smaller group where they are creating a future group future product specification, trying to show each other, and this can help us in doing prioritization. In our PMP content, we talk about product box exercise, which can be used for as a facilitated workshop for exploring the requirement. So giving some structure, if you are interested, if you are working in the agile environment, you might be already aware of tools like liberating structures, game storming. Yeah, for a PMP exam, not all these things are needed, but they are the tools which can give you idea how can you organize your meeting or a facilitated workshop so that you can generate more engaged conversation and produce results. So advantage, everybody's involved. Disadvantage, maybe not that much suitable if you have a bigger population. Yeah, that's a possibility. And again, some amount of influence might be visible here, and people may not participate if it's a long discussion. Some of the key stakeholders may not have time to participate in such kind of long conversation. So you keep that advantage, disadvantage in mind. Observation. So observation is a great tool. So you can say, whoever is my end user, I go and observe what they are doing. And by observing them, I anticipate, I explore what kind of requirement they can have. So we can definitely do an observation as a technique. Now, the disadvantage of observation is that there has to be a process in place. Means, I would say the primary condition. So if I am creating something new where the users are not even having that particular process in mind, then the observation may not be possible. But if the users are taking care of that need, maybe with the help of some manual process or by some alternative, and then I observe what they are doing, I can find out what should I do to improve their life. So that's a possibility. So say you may want to create a point of sale system. You go to a restaurant and see how the sales counter is operating. And by observing, maybe you shadow the salesperson, the cashier, and you try to do various cash transaction, and you keep observing and keep making note. This kind of steps this guy is taking, this kind of probably a problem he is facing. So you make a whole note of it, and then you try to analyze it based on those notes that, okay, these are the possible things which might be needed or need to be improved in a point of sale system. So that's the observation thing. So primary condition is you should have access to the observation place. Yeah, it may take time, you spending time and observing and making the notes. The another possibility is your own biases may also comes into the picture. So there could be many things which are happening there, but you have some kind of understanding. So say you are a software guy. So you may see the whole process from a software perspective. You may not see the process from the perspective of someone who is running the restaurant. So that could be a little thing, because observer is observing, you are the observer. So observation also depends upon you. Yeah. So observer biases may also comes in the observation thing. So you are aware that this technique has this particular thing. So probably you will say, in each technique you are talking about problems. So what we do? So we need to fulfill this problem by having some other technique applied. So if I am focusing on exploring requirement, I can't just go in a one process. I can say, okay, I will do an observation, I will make my observation, then I will take an interview of the storekeeper. That's a possibility. Or I will say that I will do my observation and I will do a brainstorming session with those people, and I will match those information, and I may challenge some of the things which I believe I have observed and not coming here. And by doing that, we come up with the requirement. So you mix multiple technique rather than you follow the one, because each technique has its own limitation. So that's an observation. Now, moving forward, we call it, I think 4 or 5 more. Yeah, it will take some time. Yeah, if you have a questions in between, keep putting. We will keep doing it in between. Yeah, so please feel free. So after doing the observation, I go to benchmarking. So benchmarking is something like you are doing catch-up innovation. You are doing something where there is an established standard already in place. So say you are creating the online streaming tool like I am using, and there are already many streaming tools. Say there is a one famous tool, for example, there is a Zoom, and you are trying to create something which is serving the purpose of what is served by the Zoom. Then you will say, okay, let's look at a Zoom because this is a market leader, and we benchmark about our functionality from Zoom. Now, again, if you try to replicate all the Zoom, then you may take long time and you may not be successful, because anyway, that product is there. But you may want to benchmark some of the characteristics which are important from the user's perspective and say, these are the things Zoom does in this particular way. Probably I need to do it also. And then I want to do something which will attract customers towards my side. So that is a benchmarking. We can say, oh, we already have a market leader. We know how they are operating. We know how they are attracting the customers. Why don't we study their product and we move forward from there? So say you are creating a new accounting system, you probably will open up some of the existing accounting systems, study how they operate, and you may have a leader where you benchmark with, and definitely you want to bring some new ideas so that you differentiate your product other than just a price, but you bring some other ideas as well so that it helps you in positioning your product in a better manner. So that technique is a benchmarking. Again, precondition is the leader should exist. If the question is indicating that you are working in the area where the existing products are not there, you are serving a market which is not yet served, then you can't do a benchmarking. Yeah? So that's a limitation of this particular tool. And again, you mix it, but that's the thing. Now, questionnaire and survey. So if you want to attract mass population and you want to understand how they are having a requirement, especially say you already have a one version and you want to upgrade to a new product, you may run a survey to the existing users and you ask them various questions and they give you the data, and based on that you may understand what could be the requirement from our next version. Yeah, so that could be a one way of identifying requirement. At the same time, the surveys may also have a biases. People who are too satisfied or too dissatisfied may only fill the survey, and there are people, some of like I consider myself like that, who may just want to avoid. You can say, I don't want to give any information to them. Whatever, if they ask, I will just say good, and close it. But they might be a good population. So that kind of population might be using your product, but maybe lazy to provide you the desired feedback. Then you miss those individuals' requirement. You only end up getting the requirement of those enthusiastic group who might be too excited about your product or who might be too unhappy with your product. But yeah, that's a technique which gives you some kind of data. Again, you mix it with something else, but that's a questionnaire and survey. So in the question, when you see a big customer base and you want to have a feel of what they really need, if you put a survey on a closed questions quantitative basis, then it is easy to compile the data. But if you put the questionnaires which are more descriptive in nature, then it may be a little difficult exercise to really extract requirements out of it. Yeah, so consider these factors when you are answering your question. Majorly, the 2 or 3 questions which you get in this particular area is all about selecting the appropriate tool. And in order to do that, you need to understand the limitations and the unique value each tool brings in. So out of comparing the 4 options, you can select the right one. Then we talk about focus group. Yeah, focus group is, you can say, it's enough, guys. Yeah, better I find some people and they can give me a requirement. I just want to put them together and they will brainstorm. They will probably do an interview, or they are already expert. Yeah, and for my project perspective, this group gives me a requirement. So many a time when you are doing contractual work, you may have a client group or some client representative who is working with you. And for you, this client group or client representative will give you the requirement. Yeah. So we can have a pre-qualified individuals who will be less in number, so it is easy to manage and work with them. And they are expected to be experts, so they will have more insights about what really user or stakeholder needs, and they will give you the information at a faster pace. Now, disadvantage is you may not have a focus group available. Yeah, that's the thing. You may not have those qualified people allocated to give you that particular requirement. That's the first limitation which may come. Second, sometimes this focus group is actually not focused. Yeah, they are not that much connected to the real user. So you probably want to have a cross-check, some kind of random interviews or something to make sure that this focus group is really in touch with the reality, rather than they are giving something which may not work well at the later stage. So that's another technique you can apply. Then a little bit towards agility side. Yeah, these all techniques can be used in agile, non-agile manner. That's not at all too much focused on predictive. But the whole idea is, in the predictive, we are doing too extensive requirement exploration activity and try to bring everything on a paper upfront. Whereas a adaptive way of working, we are doing these activities on an ongoing basis in a small pieces, because we are not hoping to extract all the requirements in the beginning. So that's a mindset thing. But yes, there are tools like user persona, user journey map, which are more frequently discussed when we are talking about agile. But interview is definitely an important thing. Observation is definitely an important thing. It can work in any context. Prototyping. So prototyping, the key word you need to see in the question is that stakeholders are finding difficult to even visualize what they are going to take. So especially in the innovative product space, when there is no experience to the user, there is no one who is serving that particular need, and individuals and people are finding even difficulty to visualize how they can possibly use that particular product. So I would say that, okay, let me create a prototype for you, and so that you can have a feel of it, and by looking at a prototype, you probably can give me the requirement. So say you are, in a simple word, you are constructing a house. Yeah, you are the owner of the house, and the engineers gives you a blueprint. They shows you an engineering drawing where everything is plotted. There are some dotted line, and if you are not educated to learn how to read engineering drawing, you probably not clear how this house will look like, and maybe they are telling to you, but you are not getting. So if those people end up creating a small paper or a cardboard house, and they show you how your boundaries will look like, what is the first floor, and they can give you a little bit model inside view and show you how this whole house operates, you will probably get an idea. Yeah, because that's a prototype. So they created a prototype of house rather than creating the whole house, because they want to make you learn and feel, because later on when we make the decision, change will be very expensive. So we are showing you so that you can give your requirement in a better manner. Yeah, so that's the prototyping. Sometimes we have a prototypings which can be used also. So the prototype, for example, I want to make a big software, but before making a big software, I make a basic prototype which you can play with. Yeah. Sometimes in agile world, we call it MVP as well. But this kind of things are usable and they create a real data. But prototype could be usable or just demonstrable. Both are prototype. The objective of prototype is that I want to really understand what customer really need. And whatever I'm making is going to be scrapped, and I have to build it well once I really know what customer wants. So that's a basic mindset in the prototyping, that whatever I'm doing is expected to be reworked upon. I'm not expecting that people will just start using prototype and then my project will start building on top of it. We need to have a proper solution. So prototyping, the disadvantage is time consuming. Yeah, it might be requiring a lot of effort. So you may need to have a budget for your project. Doing such kind of prototyping activity may require specialized skills. That's there. So I think other than that may not be much disadvantage. Definitely the people should have a little bit understanding of how to use the product. They should be able to give a feedback based on prototype. Even if the prototype is unable to generate that particular traction, then we again face a difficulty in understanding the requirement. So that's a prototyping part. Now, final two, and usually discussed in the agile world, user persona. So I'm not talking about user stories because we spoke about it sometime before. I'm just limiting to user personas. So many a time, before you visualize the requirement, you want to visualize the person behind that requirement. And we can say, okay, I am thinking of making a product. Now, who are the possible people who will use this product? And if I create an understanding of a one person who is a typical user of this particular product as a human being, and I start feeling and sensing this person as a person operating, then I may have a better understanding of his need and expectation. So actually, it is not a direct requirement exploration tool. It helps you in creating the right mindset, which can discover the requirement for you. So it is say that's the first step of discovering the requirement, first discovering the personality who is behind the requirement. So that tool is called user personas. You try to make fictitious characters so that you can identify that person as a human being, and you collect ideas around that, you brainstorm ideas around it, and that helps you in discovering some of the requirement. So user personas. Now, extending this persona, we call it user journey map. So it focuses on visualizing the steps user will take in order to achieve their objectives. And when we visualize their journey, we can discover the requirements related to that particular journey. So for example, I'm creating a system to give an order on a coffee shop thing. So I focus on a journey, that person entering in the coffee shop, they are selecting the menu, they are placing the order, they are waiting for their coffee. So I understand the whole journey. Now, when I understand the journey, then I start thinking of the functionality I need. Probably I can say, oh, person should be able to see the coffee shop menu on his phone, person should be able to order the food, person should be able to get a notification when the order is ready, and they should be able to make a payment, they should be able to identify in which seat they are sitting in case the coffee can be delivered to that particular place. And we can think of the whole journey because we are visualizing the complete journey of the user. So many a time in the agile world, in order to discover the user story, we focus on journey map, and that helps us in identifying the whole path. Yeah. So I think this is a quick crash course on various requirement techniques, and we can say that this is how we can move forward from here. Yeah. Any question, comment related to this topic or something else, we can talk related to project management usually, and we see. So we have a question. So do we need to separate functional and non-functional requirement in agile environment? So I would say, irrespective of environment, it is always a good idea to categorize requirements, because based on the category of requirements, you will have a different ownership and engagement need for different stakeholders. So one way of is functional requirement, another way of identifying is non-functional requirement. So non-functional requirements are those kind of requirements which makes the product sustain, secure, so that functional requirement can be done consistently. For example, the safety consideration, running time consideration, battery consideration, those kind of things. Now there could be other type of requirement also. There could be a requirement associated with compliance. So you may have a compliance requirement in your project. There could be other requirements, transitioning requirement, which talks about whenever you want to make an upgrade or whenever you want to deploy this product to our environment, we need these kind of things in order to make a transition happening. There could be some process requirements also, where we talk about that when you are following a project or when you are doing the project execution, we need these 20 quality reports as well. So in our project management world, we do talk about that we do categorize requirement. Now, what all categories will be relevant for me? It depends upon my organization process assets. I will look into my organization information, and based on that, I will identify it. Now, is it adaptive, predictive, hybrid? I would say that it's just a type of requirement which facilitates talking about requirement, because the compliance group is a little specific group. I need to get information from them. The user specific group, a stakeholder specific group, I need to talk about the people who are going to use it. Non-functional requirement, maybe there are technical people who will provide that information to me more. So it is always a good idea to have that understanding so that we can facilitate our team to discover and validate requirement by talking to right people. So categorization of requirement is a good idea, which is also one of the things which we learn in our PMP classes. Yeah. Irrespective of life cycle, it's a good idea. Okay, so requirements, yeah. In case anyone has a query related to this topic or any other area of PMP, we can, or generic agile, we can talk before we go further from here. I am just checking if I am active on LinkedIn. Yeah, seems to be I am, but we don't have a message from there. So I always remain suspicious about LinkedIn working. So I remind you again that some of the project documents which I am preparing now, they are available on our website. So you can check it out, eisenbridge.com/downloads. That's the place where you can find it out. And we have already done talking about requirements. I know it's a relatively simple topic, relatively, for your PMP exam. But yeah, it can give you a few ideas about it. Yeah. So do we have a governance? So I think we spent one session talking about governance, but yeah, we can talk about governance. So see, the idea of governance is we are doing project and company is spending money on this project. Someone is paying for the expenses done by this project team, and they want to have some kind of information about how things are going. So they will put some limitations, some checks and balances, and some escalation points where they will say that come to us, we will support you. And that thing is governance framework. So a governance framework basically talks about that what kind of reviews we should do, what kind of document we should produce, what kind of processes we have to follow, and what happens if we are deviating from something which is agreed upon, what kind of audits we will have. That is something is called governance. Now in my company, it could be that my organization level, we have a project management office which might be taking care of all these governance activity for many projects which are happening in the organization, and they recommend some policies, they do frequent audits, they do compile information from various projects to see variances and other things, and based on that they do intervention. The other factor of governance could be budget management. If you have estimated something but your project needs more than that, then governance group will be deciding, should we continue with it or should we stop this project because we are not going to make money out of it. So this is a decision making, this is a caretaking body or keeping eye on a project body, which is called governance. Now, if my project is a part of a program, then I may have a program level governance first, and then I may have a organization level governance. So there could be hierarchy in the governance also. Some level of things get resolved at a program level because program governance is focusing on all the projects which are happening under that particular program, and the further portfolio level or organization governance is done by other set of people. If I do a program management certification, then governance topics becomes little heavy for me. Rather than just a PMP governance is that I'm part of governance. We have a one task which focuses on that. Yes, I need to keep my governance group in loop, and I may need to support them. I may need support from them. I may need to escalate few things to them as per our agreed upon criteria. And I need to be aware that they might be doing some audit and checks on our project activity. When we do a program management, then I need to do this governance for various projects which are under my program, and then it becomes a little bit more engaged topic because you are also executing governance. In case of project, you are getting impacted by the governance. Yeah, so that's how we can little bit talk about governance. So what are the best way you recommend to identify stakeholders when starting a new project and working in the unknown work environment? So in our PMP content, we do have an identify stakeholder process, and it's a nice process. Again, you don't have to memorize it. You don't have to show all input, output tools and technique for your PMP exam. That detail is not coming, but it gives you a decent idea how possibly you can solve these kind of problem in your day-to-day project. So don't think it as just a certification thing. Use it for going further. Now, how do I start? So whenever I get assigned to a project, someone has assigned it to me. That's my first stakeholder. So till the time I'm not clear, I just go to that person who has given me an email, who has given me a call and said, you need to do this particular thing. That person is usually called sponsor. So my boss, I can just use that word, is the first stakeholder I probably will come to know as soon as my project will start. I will talk to him. I will say, boss, who all should be in loop? Yeah, you tell me, because boss is really interested in making your project successful. If your project fails, boss also fails, because the boss may also need to give answer to the management as well as to the end final clients. Yeah. So the sponsor is expected to be highly involved, high interest, high power stakeholder, and you can talk to him, brainstorm with him in order to understand who are the stakeholder. First point. After that, whatever document he gives to you, probably he gives you a contract, probably he gives you a project charter, probably he gives you a business case. I study that. I can say, oh, in this business case, these are the people, these are the players which are here. So who are these guys who have made this comment? I want to understand more about this comment. So you discover those stakeholders by understanding those artifacts. So contract, business case, whatever is coming to you. Afterwards, you go to your PMO, because PMO is expected to give you support. So we have a support coming from a PMO. So I go there and says, do you have some information about a project, something like this before? If you have it, can you share who were the people who were involved? They can give you historical data. Or you go to them and ask, in our company, if you do a project, who are the default people need to be kept in loop? For example, you are a matrix organization. You need to keep some X number of managers always in loop, because this is how our process works. So the PMO will tell, these are the people you need to keep them in loop, and these are the stakeholders for you. So you start from there. So you have these 4-5 sources to start with. The PMO gives you historical data, give you an enterprise environmental factor feeling. Your sponsor gives you a brief information. Your documents gives you a brief information. Many a time, when you go to those people and you ask them, you spoke about this requirement, can you tell me more about it? The person will say, I will give you a little bit, but if you want to know more, you need to go to that guy. Yeah. So after I start, the chain will start becoming visible to me. It's just like initial, the critical mass I need to identify. After that, I will know who are the important stakeholders to be kept in loop. Yeah, so that's how I start. In many organizations, this might be a simple, straightforward process. As you start the project, your PMO may give you a ready-made information. So these are the people, plus client has to be your stakeholder. So that could be as simple as this, or it could be complicated as I was explaining before. Yeah. Okay, so that's the idea till now. Great. So I see we are live on LinkedIn. Yeah, and that's there. And we do, but yes, there is no comment coming in. Maybe we don't have an audience much there, but we are live. That much I can see. Yeah, that's pretty much clear info, which is visible to me there. Okay, if I see. Going back, checking something. Great. So looks like we are settling down. I wait for a while. If we have some new questions, we will take. Else we are done for today. Yeah, that seems to be the case if we are done with our queries. Okay, so okay, can you cover how workflow and user stories are interrelated? So I hope the workflow is more, you are talking about user journey. So I take step 1, step 2, step 3. That's a workflow. Yeah. And user stories will be discovered out of it. Yeah. So let's be clear about a workflow. So say I'm making a software, yeah, for supporting carpooling. Yeah. Now, what is a workflow for booking a ride? Yeah. So person may opens an app. They look for nearby apps, yeah, nearby cars. They probably search based on their past experience. They see the estimated time, and based on that, they make the judgment. They take the car and finish the ride. So you have a steps. You can call, say, steps to perform a thing. Now, a whole journey is usually called journey map. There could be a small workflow which is only focusing on booking a ride. So I open, I search, I book, yeah, and then say booking is these 3-step process. That's it. Now, if this whole thing can be done in few days, yeah, it could be one user story. If it takes multiple days, yeah, means multiple sprints, then it need to be divided into multiple user stories. So user story is all about thinking about what user need from a particular application. So I want to book a ride. Now I can say as a user, I should be able to book a ride. Yeah, it's a simple user story for me. But when the developer looks at it, we can say the ride booking has multiple steps in the workflow, and I may not be able to finish it in a one sprint. Then I will say, okay, probably I need to divide this based on various steps in the workflow and create more stories out of it. So probably I will say, oh, first story is I should be able to locate who are my nearby cars. Okay, story 1. Story 2 could be I should be able to filter based on my past experience. Story 2. Story 3, I should be able to select a card and click a book button. So if there were 3 steps of a workflow, they divided them into a 3 user story. So what is user story? A small slice of requirement which can be done in a given sprint by a team, because the last part is important. So slice of requirement becomes small when it can be finished in a given sprint. Yeah, we call it small user story. If it is bigger than that, that depends upon which framework we are using. Sometimes we just call it epic, something which is bigger than a user story, we use the word epic for it. Sometimes we create an intermediate artifact, we call them feature, where we may define a feature of doing something which may have a workflow. So you can say feature of booking a ride, and we may define the workflow and the details related to it. And then we split into a user stories because user stories are expected to done incrementally. Yeah, that's what we can. Any follow-up, please put it, but that's how we see it. And it can be a context of agile working or PMP working. I think it remains the same. It's a tool to talk about requirement rather than agile or non-agile. So when we spoke about requirement exploration, yes, user stories are one of the important tool, but I missed it because I thought we have covered it before and it might be a long conversation. But if it is needed, we can talk about it sometime again. But that's the whole intent of user story. So user story is an instrument which we use to explore user need in a small incremental manner, which facilitates incremental delivery. The whole idea is incremental discovery of a requirement and incremental delivery of a requirement supported because the nature of user story is small, and it also facilitates conversation over documentation because it is done in a small pieces. Yeah, I think here I stop related to the user story at this level. Yes. Okay. Now for PMP exam, in general, the questions will not go into that much depth. Yeah. So I keep reminding. So say there are many things which project manager should know. Say there are 20 things which project manager should know. So PMP exam will get into these 20 things at a high level. Yeah. But as a practitioner, out of these 20 things, 5 things you do more deeply. So the amount of depth you apply, so say you might be working with a user story, you might be facilitating the conversation around user story. So you might be writing user story sometime. That kind of excellence which you have developed in a user story will not get tested in the PMP exam. Yeah. They will just expect that you understand what is user story, how it facilitates incremental development. You probably will have some understanding of what is the characteristics of a good user story and how they fit into the overall scheme of agile development. If you understand that much, you are good for PMP exam. Yeah. But may not be good to make user story used in your organization. Yeah, for that you probably need to go in detail, and that is relevant for other topics as well. So say we learn what is risk, what is the various response strategies of the risk, and what do we do about risk. We understand all the terms, but the exam will not ask you to identify risk in a given situation. Exam will not ask you to find out or create a risk response based on a given situation. So those things you will do in a practical world all the time, but exam will not go into that much depth. Exam will go at a level so that you have a good awareness of what is risk and how you need to take care of it. So similarly, all 20 topics are covered at a sufficient depth, but not in too much depth. Yeah. In your business, in your work, you need to go into depth. Yeah. My recommendation is when you are preparing for PMP exam, at least the topics which are very relevant for you, you go into the depth, maybe after or before the exam, because that will help you in growing in your professional space. Yeah. Good. So this is for today's session. If you have any follow-up query related to project management or the things which we have discussed, please put it in the comment, chat or LinkedIn comment, wherever you see this stream. So for next week, I will see, depending upon how the week goes, we probably will get some ideas from our community, from my LinkedIn comments or my YouTube comments. And based on that, we'll pick up something. Yeah, hopefully we should get an idea yeah, to get it there. So what are the most used requirement technique in Agile world? So user story. Yeah, that's a simple answer. So user story is the number one. Yeah, that's what you do. And then you may have probably the things. Okay, so we have another question. I'm a CEO of a company. How do I apply the PMI PMP exam? So you can definitely apply, yeah, with your project management experience. So let me reiterate your question and then probably I can explain. So you might be running an organization yourself, and you might be doing your internal initiative to get things done, which are temporary initiative, maybe running some events, maybe running some products, or you might be serving your client by taking a big chunk of work and executing them as a project. If you do it, you are a project manager, not a title project manager. You are doing project management. So your doing project management experience has to be demonstrated in your application to improve your project management skill by doing PMP. The reason of you doing PMP should be that I want to establish myself that I have a good project management skills. That is something there. Now you can definitely use 100% waterfall, no problem. Yeah, because your context might be 100% waterfall. Yeah, we do have many clients who are coming from construction background, many clients coming from a pharmaceutical background, running many compliance oriented projects. So perfectly okay. But the idea is, in order to grow as a project manager and establish myself a project manager who is versatile, I need to demonstrate by learning agile that now going forward, if we need to use adaptive lifecycle, I am capable of doing it. So by way of learning and demonstrating that competency in my PMP exam, I bring that clarity in my communication that I can also find out when the adaptive will be a good idea. In case of PMP or a project management, we take waterfall adaptive as a tool, not as a goal. So if my project achieve objective by using tool A, I apply tool A. If my project achieve objective better by applying tool B, I apply tool B. Yeah, or I may create a mixture of it and I create tool C. Yeah, and I may change in between also. So that's the mindset for a project managers. We need to get our project objectives met. How do we do it? As per the context. Whatever works in a given environment, I should be able to discover it and do it so that my project achieve my goal. That's the objective of a PMP exam, and that's the learning I do as a project manager. Yeah. Hopefully it gives you some clarity. If not, maybe we can try again. Yeah. Okay, so I think the YouTube is working and LinkedIn is again giving me error. So yeah, I think people who wanted to really interact are already on YouTube. Yeah. Great, I think we are settling down. Now I can spend more time if someone has a specific question related to PMP, Agile related topics. We can talk about skilled Agile also, though it is not a part of PMP content, but I can probably talk about that as well if you have any query. Else we will close in next 5 minutes. Okay, so I remind again that we have placed all the documents on eisenbridge.com/downloads. So you can get it from there, the documents related to various project management samples. We do have videos talking about various project management PMP style questions. So they are 176 now. You can check it out in our playlist. And the recording of our previous episodes are also available in our YouTube channel. That is also, you can find it out. Yeah. And you can definitely have a follow-up queries. You can drop us a mail, or you can join our WhatsApp community where you also get a frequent updates related to project management topics whenever I paste something, new article or new content. Yeah. So thank you. Thank you for joining the today's episode. See you sometime again in our next episode. Bye for now.